Now it is time to listen from our esteemed chief guest, Dr. Rajdeep Manvani sir, who is my inspiration. So I would like to invite Dr. Rajdeep Manvani sir to address the gathering.
Just move a little back. You can sit down.
Thank you so much, Chandana. And after seeing all the awardees, I'm feeling so nervous. I'm feeling like a teacher who once went into class and there were these students, and there was one student sitting in the front row, and the teacher went and asked the student, see, it's celebration time, it's festival time. If God appeared in front of you, what would you ask God for? So the student smiled and said, sir, I'll definitely ask for a new iPhone Pro Max 16. I'll definitely ask for a new laptop. I'll definitely ask for a 350cc bike. So the teacher got a little upset and she looked at him and she said, what's wrong with you? If God appears in front of you, you should be asking for wisdom. You should be asking for courage. You should be asking for talent. The student smiled at the teacher and said, ma'am, you ask what you don't have, I'll ask what I don't have. So, looking at the awardees, I feel I don't have all the talents and abilities which they have, and I'm the chief guest, so it's a very big irony. Anyway, uh, just 5-6 minutes, because I know you all are running short of time. Let me narrate to you an incident which changed the course of psychology and behavior. There was this small school in the outskirts of Atlanta in the US. There's a state called Atlanta, and there's a city called Atlanta, and there was a small school which had students with difficult abilities. They were from the ghetto, from the slums, and they were not very well behaved. And in that school, there was one class which was really bad. It was the ninth grade or the ninth standard students, and they were very, very badly behaved. They never used to listen to the teacher. They used to be very, very rude. They never at all did any assignments given to them, and the principal was very worried, and no teacher was willing to take that class. So what the teacher did was, the principal did was, he called up a teacher who had just retired from service, Mrs. Sara, and he told Mrs. Sara, please, can you take that class for this year at least? Next year we'll find somebody else, but this year we are not finding anybody to take that class. So Mrs. Sara took that class of ninth graders, and suddenly there was a big transformation. The students started behaving properly, their grades went up from E and F to A, B, they went up in their percentage, they started behaving well, they took part in all the activities, and by the end of the year, their class was voted as one of the best classes in the whole school. And the principal was elated, he was thrilled. He said, we are going to have a felicitation ceremony. So he had a felicitation ceremony for Mrs. Sara, and in that felicitation ceremony, he called his friends, teachers, parents, and he said in that felicitation ceremony, Mrs. Sara, you're a miracle maker, you're a magician. You transformed a class of hooligans into one of the best classes in this whole school. Please tell us, how did you do it? And Mrs. Sara came on the stage and she said, sir, I didn't do much. Remember when you actually sent me the list of these 25, 30 students, next to the names you had mentioned their IQ scores. You know, the normal IQ is 90 to 110. But all these students had IQs of 111, 115, 117, 119. All of them were above the normal intelligence levels, and I treated them with that reverence and with that anticipation that they had such big IQ scores, and that's why they did well. It was nothing of mine. The principal nearly fell off his chair. He said, madam, those were not their IQ scores, those were their registration receipt numbers. No. In that audience, there was one of the friends of that principal, whose name was Professor Jacobson, who was a professor at Harvard. And this Professor Jacobson was stunned. He said, is it true only for this case, or is it true for all cases? So he went back to Harvard and he collaborated with one of his professor friends, Mr. Rosenthal. And Jacobson and Rosenthal did a study for nearly 9 months, and then they extended to 1 or 2 years. as to what brings out the best among individuals, students. They started off with students and teachers, then they went on to the corporate employees, and then they went on to the office employees. And they found a very, very strong pattern which emerged in this whole study. And they published this paper in the 1990s, and they titled the paper in the Harvard Business Review, which created a stir in the field of psychology. It was called the Pygmalion effect. Now, what is this Pygmalion effect? And why was the paper titled the Pygmalion effect? So, who was Pygmalion? Pygmalion was a Greek sculptor who, with his mallet and chisel, made one of the most beautiful sculptures of a lady called Narcissa. And what he did is, because the sculpture was so beautiful, this is Greek mythology, he fell in love with his own sculpture and he used to take care of it, hold its hand, embrace it. And the Greek gods were so touched by his love and emotion to that particular sculpture that they put life into that statue, and Pygmalion got married to his own creation, Narcissa. And that's what was the story of Pygmalion. But what was the study about, and what did this Jacobson and Rosenthal actually come to conclude? Jacobson and Rosenthal came to conclude a very, very important aspect of research over 3 and 4 years, which they said that if you anticipate the best from somebody, the best comes out. If you anticipate the worst from somebody, the worst comes down. The key to having the best come out from anybody is, are you expecting the best? Mrs. Sarah expected the best from the students because she knew their IQ scores were high and they did well. Pygmalion expected his sculpture to be alive and they came alive. And I think so history is replete with examples. If you consider a person a disabled, if you consider a person differently abled, and you expect the worst from him, the worst will come out. If you expect the best from that person, you will find that miracles start happening. And history is replete with examples. What was Albert Einstein? Till the age of 11 or 12, he couldn't speak. His teacher called his mother and said, "Oh my God, your son Einstein is doomed. Your son Albert is doomed for life." And what did the mother do? She removed him from school and she told the teacher, "That's your opinion, not mine." She put in her best. She expected the best from her son, and we had one of the greatest scientists who ever walked this planet. What was Thomas Alva Edison? He was completely attention deficit. He never used to listen in class. He used to bring bats to class, throw pickle around, and his teacher called his mother and said, "I don't think so, your son will amount to much." And the mother said, "Don't worry, ma'am, one day Tommy will make you proud." And he had nearly 13, 14 inventions in his name, not in 13, 99 inventions in his name. What was Helen Keller? Visually impaired, couldn't hear, but she found a Pygmalion in a lady called Anne Hathaway, who said, "It's okay if she can't see, it's okay if she can't hear, but I'll make her touch and listen and see what things can happen." And what happened? Helen Keller became one of the greatest visionaries of her time, writing the most beautiful poetry, writing the most beautiful essays, all because they found one Pygmalion in their life. And I want to tell you that as the same thing. Can we assume the best? If we keep assuming that no, a person cannot do well, he's not going to do well, he's not worth doing anything, nothing's going to happen. But the more you anticipate the best from somebody, the best comes out. Let me tell you one small incident of my college and then we'll end. When I was in college, every year at the end of the final year, I was in BCom in St. Joseph's College of Commerce, and we used to have these socials, where boys and girls used to dance at the end, and the alumni and the teachers used to pick out one of the best dancing couples, and in those days they used to give a prize of 10,000. What you all gave today, okay? Okay, and it was really prestigious. But all the girls picked out one or the other, and everybody told me, "Rajdeep, you can't dance, you can't see, you won't be able to perform well." And I was feeling very, very low. I was feeling very, very upset that all the girls had one dancing partner or the other, and I was feeling extremely bad about the whole thing. Luckily, in those days, I used to go for reading to a lady called Mrs. Rajeshwari near my house, and she used to read out. She had a very neat way of making me listen to something. She used to tell, "I'll read out for you for 1 hour, but for 5 minutes you have to listen to Swami Chinmayananda's books, which I'm going to read to you." She was a follower of Chinmaya Mission. And in one of those readings, she read out a very, very interesting quote. it was, I don't know, Tejo Mayananda or Chinmayananda, and she said, means when I was feeling low, and she said, you know, there is something called as the authenticity mantra. I said, what is this authenticity mantra? And she read it out. It said, I will not shrink, I will not puff myself up, I will stand my sacred ground. I will not shrink, I will not puff myself up, I will stand my sacred ground. And I felt, I kept repeating that to myself. And when I said this to myself, in a few days, a miracle happened. One of the dancing couples were a boy and girl who actually liked each other and loved each other. They were Vijay and Prabha. And Vijay met with an accident and his leg broke. Unfortunately for him, fortunately for me, right? And this Prabha had nobody. All the boys were taken. So who had to go in her place? Yours truly. She came to me and said, Rajdeep, you have to dance. I told, no, I don't know how to dance. You only told me no. No, Rajdeep, I'll teach you. Don't worry. If we win the prize, I'll keep the money. I said, no. Oh, wow. Correct, no? And she, for that 1 week before the competition, she said, Rajdeep, you can dance. You just have to turn the way I turn. You just have to do the way I do. You just have to move your hands. I'm going to tell you how to do. And she said, I'm sure we are going to win. I'm sure we are going to win. For that 1 week, we danced, twisted, turned. And even in the finals, we did the same thing. And the winners were Rajdeep and Prabha. Yay. Correct or no? Clap. Yeah. Give a clap. Good. You're clapping for her or for me? Okay. And all my friends came to me and asked me, Rajdeep, did you win because of the money or because of love? I said, no, money she didn't want to take. She only told she'll take it. Love, Vijay is still alive. He's only broken his leg. Correct? But there was one thing which had happened. Actually, two things. One was that I had started thinking, I'm not going to shrink myself up. I'm not going to puff myself up. I'm going to stand my sacred ground. And the second was, she believed in me. She was a Pygmalion. She said, you can dance and you can do something. So I just want to urge all of you all today, can we become Pygmalions in somebody's life? Can we actually anticipate the best from somebody? And the more you anticipate the best from somebody, and this is not some fuzzy research, this has been actually substantiated by the Heart Math Foundation, by neuroscience, where we have mirror neurons which reflect what we expect from somebody else. If we can become Pygmalions to somebody else, we can make a difference. We just saw today how Advait's mother had faith in her son. We saw how Avinash's father had faith in him. And all these are examples of Pygmalions who have transformed the life of somebody else. So let's make this resolution today to become a Pygmalion in somebody's life. I know I've spoken a lot. There's a very famous saying, animals eat when they are hungry, human beings eat when food is free. So I know you all are all very hungry. So please have your food and enjoy your food, and I'll hand it over to the district governor. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. It is always an inspiration to listen to you, and we'll never feel, bored to listen to you talk. So thank you so much.